Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scoop Slam Report right here on YouTube. I hope you all are doing very well. I'm checking to make sure we don't have any more lag, as the last time we had quite a bit of lag. So if you're in the chat right now, I see we got some people coming in. Give me a thumbs up. Let me, give me the reassurance here that we're looking good, we're looking crisp, and we're giving you that good quality right here on the Anthony Linetti Show with the third episode of the Scoop Slam Report coming to you today. I am still working on a Spotify thing. I keep forgetting about it, but I do want to have these posted on Spotify down the road. So that's what I'm going to still shoot for, is hopefully we get some of these on Spotify. We're already in the third episode, so I should really work on that. But nonetheless, that's going to be my goal, is to get some of these on podcast platforms as well, especially when I have some guests on, because I am starting to schedule some guests to have on the show. So I'm planning to have some good things coming in terms of that, with some new peeps and some different things as far as the setup goes. As you can see, I don't have the shirts, right? I don't have the shirts. That was just by an accident. All right, that's just my bad. I forgot to bring the T-shirts. I like having them in the background, but I got to say right now, I'm kind of digging the way this looks. I don't know. You guys let me know. I like the way it looks right now. It kind of, I don't know. It just seems like a vibe without the shirts a little bit. But we got a lot of things to cover in terms of professional wrestling today. The other thing, I did want to cover some guests. So we got some guests lined up in July. I will be doing another prediction show with Jonah for SummerSlam that we scheduled a while ago. So that's Rewind, Recap, Relive. He's got some great interviews going up. He's killing the interview game. So that's going to be for the future, as well as some other people like Robert Martyr. And I'm hoping to have some other people you may have heard before or you may not have heard before on the Scoop Slam Report. So we got some new stuff, and we got some interesting people that'll hopefully be coming on in the near future. Let's check out the chat real quick and just see all my peeps in here. We're looking good. That's good. DK is in here. Oh, why are my chats not up? There we go. Let's put this stuff up, and we'll have to see whether or not it does slow down. I'm hoping it doesn't, but if it does slow down, then I know what's probably going to be the issue. It might just be chats in general is what it's doing. But let's see. Looks like it slowed down a little bit, but it doesn't look terrible. I don't think it looks terrible, but maybe we won't put chats up for the time being. We'll leave banners off for the time being. I might just have to resize this guy. So I want to keep good quality here without losing you guys. That's if it'll let me. There we go. Yeah, maybe it is just the chats and that kinds of things. But we got DK in here. What's going on? And we got James in here. What's going on, James? Thanks to everyone in the chat right now that's popping in a little bit. We got some things to talk about in terms of the pro wrestling world, so let's go ahead and do that. Like I said, I think I'm going to leave chats off for now. It seems like it's kind of lagging the stream. I mean, I'll try to put it back on. Maybe it's just the banners itself that is causing it, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll put some chats up if we get like certain big ones or whatever, pop-ins or whatever, super chats, that kind of thing. Maybe we'll figure out something down the road. So like I've done before with these shows, we got wrestling speculation and we got confirmed wrestling news. And there's surprisingly a lot to talk about today and stuff that was announced today, whether it be rumors or, things just coming up in the world of pro wrestling that have been later announced. And there's a lot of stuff that happened this week. We had a TNA NXT show. And what I mean by that is we had TNA wrestlers on NXT in a battle royal to compete for the NXT championship, to, be a headline at NXT Heatwave, which, it might not seem like the biggest deal in the world to some people that might just be hearing that, because it is just, their partnership. But to me, it is a really big deal. It's a really big deal because we haven't seen this kind of thing in WWE before, where there's a constant appearance of TNA, other promotion wrestlers, and we got more that AJ Styles is going to be wrestling in another wrestling promotion other than WWE, making his return to that country in several years, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's been several things that have happened. I guess we'll start with the more WWE and TNA appearances. It looks like there may be more future WWE and TNA appearances, meaning that TNA talent would show up on NXT and NXT talent would show up on TNA. So, for me, I'm a big fan of that concept because it really. Oh, did we freeze? Maybe we just froze. Hold on one second. Let me do. Okay, now we're good. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why. I don't know why we just froze there. Still having some tech issues. But we're working out the kinks. We're back up. Okay, we're good. Yeah, I know. We froze, James. Yeah, we froze. We're good now, though. We're good. Anyway, and I wanted to put your chat up here. We believe in Joe Hendry. We certainly do believe in Joe Hendry. Except it's not putting it up now. Huh, that's weird. My whole thing always this always happens in the beginning of the streams here. But I always fall apart with something when I feel like I'm on a roll and I'm hitting that roll, and then we kind of have those tech issues. I don't know why we have that. 'Cause now I got to fix it now. The tech doesn't believe in Joe Hendry. That's right. Because even that froze. That's crazy. Oh, there it is. I fixed it. Okay. All right. Now it's up there. So weird. Yes. Now we believe in Joe Hendry. What's up, Jake the Tribal Chief? Sorry, I missed that. Or Jake the Aerial Assassin. I'm sorry. The man of many nicknames, Jake the Tribal Chief, Discord mod, my guy. Hope you are doing well today. But we were talking about WWE and TNA appearances as we're having more tech issues. But like James said with Joe Hendry, I mean the plethora of talent that could show up in either promotion is really big. It is really big, to see Joe Hendry appear on WWE television, especially after really taking social media by storm. Joe Hendry, whether you love him or you hate him, most people love him. Joe Hendry has, really taken a following. It's very similar to how LA Knight was. LA Knight really, took to a lot of people, and it was through social media. It was through people, reposting, doing the yeah chant, with everybody saying that whole thing. He gained so much popularity through social media. That's what really catapulted his career. It's the same with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry is a very entertaining guy. I look at him and LA Knight, and I'm looking at two very similar talents in a way because they're so entertaining. It's not, just about their professional wrestling, what they do in the ring, but it's what they do outside the ring. It's what they do on the microphone. It's what they do backstage. It's what they do in music videos, because Joe Hendry has really killed it when it comes to music videos and that sort of sphere. So I really thought that was cool. Frankie Kazarian, seeing him on NXT, I thought was cool after the career he's had. Kazarian being in AEW, being in TNA, really, really. Oh, yeah, being in AEW. I don't know why I thought I said WWE. Being in AEW, being in TNA, he's really a vet when it comes to professional wrestling. So seeing him in there and being the final four of that Battle Royal was really cool to see. So I hope that we do see more WWE and TNA appearances. It only helps both companies. It's a very innovative thing to see when it comes to both brands. And I hope that, we do see more TNA talent like a Moose, even the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys could show up on NXT, which would be really cool to see. I don't know if they will because apparently they are still free agents, but that would be really cool to see the Hardy Boys represent TNA in a NXT ring. Just would be a really cool sight to see. Chad Gable apparently is removed from the Money in the Bank qualifier. Now, before anyone thinks that this is, something else related, like something that Chad Gable did outside the ring, it's nothing like that. It is because of the Wyatt 6 attack, which we will talk about later in the show, part of our confirmed stuff. But this is speculation, as WWE ran something. This is what the report said, was that they ran something on Main Event. I know Main Event is still a thing. They ran something on Main Event saying that Gable was taken out of the Money in the Bank qualifier and replaced by Ilya Dragunov. So if that is the case, Gable won't be in the qualifier. And I'm not actually mad at this or anything like that. And I'll tell you why this is a good thing. Is because, RP Chad Gable. Why this is a good thing. It's a good thing because Chad Gable has had this rivalry with Alpha Academy, with Otis, with Maxine, Tozawa, the whole Alpha Academy. To keep the rivalry going, Chad Gable the next week or the week after that could build sympathy from the simple fact that Alpha Academy left him. They did not stay around for the show. That's why they were not a part of the attack. But Gable could try to get sympathy from Otis, from the rest of Alpha Academy, and, really try to bring these guys back together, only to then turn on them and join up with the Creed brothers and make a new Alpha Academy. I'm not saying I don't want to see Chad Gable in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but I don't necessarily think he has to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. If this is a true report and this is going to be confirmed by WWE, on their social media later on, then I don't think this is a bad thing. I think it'd be very funny if Gable came out with his forehead taped up, wearing a neck brace on Raw, trying to get Otis back on his side, and, really gained sympathy for the fact that he got attacked. He got jumped by the new Wyatt family, the Wyatt 6. And, I think it'd be really cool to really see them, go into that. Because how many times in wrestling do we really see injury angles anymore? We've seen Ricochet, which we'll talk about Ricochet a little bit. But, we don't really see too many injury angles where the injury itself that takes place when it's a scripted injury. We don't really see the guys really sell it. We see a lot of moves where people land on their head, where people take a big move and they kick out at 2. So when we have stuff like this, I appreciate it because it keeps the realism element of wrestling still intact, which is cool to see. Because if somebody does, get beat up in the way that the Wyatt 6 did, they should be selling it. It should be visible. They shouldn't just be wrestling next week without a scratch on them. I think, wrestlers should be selling those injuries because it makes sense. It aligns with the TV program. It makes sense all around. So I do think that it's a good thing for WWE to, be doing that and making sure that, the injuries and what you see on television, as far as, those scripted things they want to do, that those wrestlers actually sell those things. Just like we saw with Ricochet. Ricochet was ambulanced off of Monday Night Raw with Samantha Irving 2 weeks ago now. And Ricochet has not been seen since. And, I don't know whether or not Ricochet is going to re-sign. There is a report saying that his deal expires in July. I kind of want to see him wrestle Braun Breaker. I do want to see him kind of get his get back and get some revenge. I don't know if you guys feel that same way, but that's how I kind of feel. I feel like Gable should have a chance at revenge. Ricochet to me, has he been booked the best in WWE? No. No, he's not. He would have a killer time in AEW. But if he does decide to resign with WWE, we could very well see him try to get some revenge on Braun Breaker, and it would be a really cool thing to see. Especially, when has Ricochet really been taken as a threat? This would give us more of an emotional attachment to Ricochet rather than him just being a great professional wrestler. Um, you know, Here's the thing. We loved Daniel Bryan in 2014. I was actually going to wear that shirt today, the what Daniel Bryan shirt I have, but I decided to go with Adam Cole. Um, but we love Daniel Bryan. And one of the reasons we love Daniel Bryan is from that emotional attachment we had with him in 2013 and 2014 when he fought the Authority. And it's not to say that, Daniel Bryan isn't a great professional wrestler. He is a extraordinary professional wrestler. We didn't just love him for his in-ring work. We loved him from the fact that we had an attachment with him. He was the underdog. He was the underdog that we wanted to see succeed. And that could very well be the case for Ricochet. If he is someone that they go with the narrative that he isn't meant to succeed in WWE, just like how Rey Mysterio had that same narrative with him when he won the world title. There was a lot of people that, really said that Ray was never going to be a world champion. He proved those people wrong. And, Ricochet could have that going for him where he's that underdog, where he could be more believable in that sense because more people would be behind him. Now, James has a good comment here. I suspect Ricochet resigns. I don't see him going anywhere else. Now, again, I think that too. At this point in the game, I'm kind of thinking that Ricochet may have re-signed with WWE, but there is still a chance, of course, that they're writing him out because Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn seems to be the feud that they are going with. Looks to be for Money in the Bank. So if that match does happen for the championship, maybe Ricochet comes out and screws over Braun Breaker from him not winning the WWE Intercontinental Championship, which I think would be pretty interesting to see. But that pay-per-view is on July 6th. So does that mean Ricochet's contract is already expired by then? I don't know. Could very well be the case for Ricochet. And if Ricochet's contract does expire, I mean, you never know. We could see him show up at Forbidden Door. Uh, Again, a lot of the speculation stuff, we don't have anything confirmed showing that Ricochet is done with WWE or whether he re-signed. So, we could very well see him show up at that Forbidden Door show as the next free agent signed by AEW or even signed by New Japan. So there's a lot to, digest with that. But you very well could see Ricochet back in WWE, or you could very well see him tearing it up with Will Ospreay in an AEW ring. Either way, I'm going to be okay with because we're going to get some really good wrestling out of it. Now we're going to move into the big story that was today, and it's from Conrad Thompson, and it's from Jim Ross. You may have seen it online, and I might get into some fantasy booking here. So if you missed me doing some fantasy booking stuff, this could be the place where you get to see that here today. And this might even be a YouTube video I upload tomorrow or later in the week. Shane McMahon in AEW. You heard me say that correctly. Shane McMahon in AEW. The possibility of him joining AEW. Now, when you first hear this, right? When I'm first saying this, right? You kind of think like, no. There would not be a McMahon on AEW TV probably unless they decide to buy it, right? Same thing happened with WCW. But, and again, this is under the realm of speculation and rumors. Jim Ross talked about Shane McMahon talking to AEW talent about a potential appearance. Now, what would that appearance consist of? Shane McMahon reportedly was kicked out of WWE early 2022. I don't know if you remember, but he was the one that was reportedly behind the 2022 Royal Rumble, the one where Brock Lesnar won, where Bad Bunny was part of the Final Five. I think Johnny Knoxville was in that. The Royal Rumble itself, that match that year wasn't that good. There wasn't that many good points about that Royal Rumble, other than Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins taking place as the first match on the show. Everything else is kind of forgettable. And that was just kind of goes back to how the writing was a little bit also before Triple H took over in 2022. I digress. Apparently, he was the one that, was behind the Royal Rumble 2022 and was kicked out of WWE. Now, we saw Shane McMahon back in WWE, I think at WrestleMania 39. It was 39, I believe, against The Miz, where he got hurt. There was reports, Hulk Hogan talked about it, him wanting to wrestle Shane McMahon in one more match at WrestleMania 39, as crazy as that seems. What's going on, Brian Cutler? I believe you're new to the chat. Everybody welcome Brian Cutler. Thinks that Braun Breaker's next in line for a monster push. He's my pick for next year's Royal Rumble. Interesting. Thank you, Brian, for coming in the chat. We're talking about Shane McMahon right now. I'd like to get to your comment a little bit later on about Braun Breaker, though. We could talk about that a little bit later in the show. But anyway, Shane McMahon wanted to wrestle Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan talked about that. And, that would have been just crazy to see in 2023. I don't really think that the actual match of that happening would ever happen in 2023. I mean, Hulk Hogan in TNA was pretty banged up, so I don't think we're going to see Hulk Hogan in a ring again. And good, you should stay retired at this point. He's paid his dues. So Shane was an on-screen figure from 2016 to 2019 till he was written off. He came back a little bit, did some stuff with Braun Strowman in 2020, 2021-ish. And, he did some Rumbles. He produced some Rumbles. And that's, where the big report came about him getting fired for producing the 2022, Royal Rumble, the one that Brock Lesnar won. Oh, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a minute. I hope you're doing well. What's up, Graves? Happy to see you set up. You're looking good. No titty. Oh, man. I'm not even going to get into that. That's just a crazy lore. But we saw so much of Shane McMahon in WWE in the Vince McMahon era. And yeah, Matt Riddle was supposed to win the 2022 Royal Rumble. I think he had an altercation with Goldberg or something. That might have been the year prior. Anyway, back to Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon apparently has talked to some AEW talents. Now, I would like to preface this and say, think about the names that are in AEW or were in AEW. Some guys that used to be in WWE that Shane McMahon may be close with. You got Chris Jericho, The Big Show, Mark Henry. I'm sure there's a few others I'm missing out. He might have been cool with Jack Swagger. But there's a lot of people that did work with Shane McMahon. And Shane, I'm sure, has had an itch to be a part of pro wrestling. There's always those legends. They want to come back in. They want to make an impact. They want to make a business. They want to make more money. There's going to be a lot of people that do not want Shane McMahon in AEW. I was tired of seeing Shane McMahon on WWE television. I'm sure most of you were as well, because after a while, it became oversaturated. He became a heel. He was calling himself the best in the world, kind of a dig at Punk, although other people have used it like Jericho and stuff. At the time, there was people that were kind of hoping Punk would come back. And that was, I believe, almost around that same time Punk went on backstage and, was kind of hinting at a return. So, there's so much that kind of happened with Shane where, people loved Shane coming back. And then after a while, he kind of became oversaturated. And then everyone kind of was like, get Shane off TV, get Shane off TV. And then it did happen when he lost to Kevin Owens. And he made those sporadic appearances, but then that was it. I don't see Shane McMahon in a role in WWE anymore on television. I just don't see it. Here's my idea if this were to happen, all right? You guys can tell me if I'm crazy, whether I'm wrong, whatever. The Young Bucks have labeled themselves EVPs in AEW. They've been getting booed, and that's obviously the reaction they want. They got the, whole elite thing going on with Okada and Jack Perry. What if the EVPs decide that the reaction they're getting isn't justified? That in AEW, they are the creators of AEW alongside, the young Jack Perry, and you got Okada that just came in. They feel like the founders, and they feel like they want to be the ones that are really in control of AEW. And they decide to go against the very idea, the grain of what AEW was. It was the alternative in North America for professional wrestling. And they buy in to that idea of not being the alternative anymore and decide to appoint a new general manager to AEW Dynamite, that being Shane McMahon. Again, it's a really long shot idea, but think about it this way. We don't need Shane McMahon in a ring, right? Don't need him wrestling. We could use him on screen, though. And here's the thing. Here's the kicker. Everyone, I hit my microphone. Everyone has talked about a potential war between WWE and AEW. Now, if you watch this show and you've watched my other content, we know that's not true. There is no real war between WWE and AEW. They're competitors in the professional wrestling market, but there is no real war there. They're people that have friends across WWE and AEW. All right, there shouldn't be a war. There shouldn't be, taking shots back and forth, etc. That shouldn't really be a thing. But there is the stigma amongst wrestling fans that they have to pick one brand over the other. So, what if AEW decides to book a McMahon versus a Khan team? Shane McMahon and his group of wrestlers versus Tony Khan's group of wrestlers. Could you imagine if the headline on, a lot of these wrestling networks, if you looked at the Wrestling Observer, if you've looked at AEW's website, and you saw Shane McMahon a part of the elite, there'd be outrage. People would be booing. People would just be flabbergasted at the even thought of that happening. It doesn't seem real. But I also want to point back to something. Who was on TNT when WCW had their final show? Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon was the one that was the storyline guy that had his name on the contract that purchased WCW. There are a bunch of wrestling fans that are against the idea of AEW. I'm going to set my microphone again. They're against the idea of AEW. And I hate that. I do hate that. But this is a great way to build that. A pro AEW team versus a villain AEW team that could easily go into a blood and guts match, or even just continue the storyline even into All In, where I know they like to do Anarchy in the Arena, Stadium Stampede, all that stuff, etc. This would basically be their kind of Survivor Series type of storyline, where there could be a bunch of power on the line in AEW. Again, this is all speculation that Shane McMahon sent feelers out to a bunch of AEW talent. But it's all speculation at the end of the day. But I want you guys to just sit back and think about that idea. Because if it were to happen, it would be a very big thing in the history of professional wrestling. A McMahon showing up on a different wrestling promotion that is not owned by a McMahon in 2024. And to be honest, it's a good idea on paper. It would generate a lot of people to tune into AEW to see what's going on, why there is a McMahon on AEW television. James says, if Shane was to be involved, I don't see him doing the goofy heel elite stuff. And I will say I'm some of the time I think that AEW relies too much sometimes on um, over exaggerating things, and you know this whole thing would add a layer of story to it, where it would be a serious storyline. And I think that, no matter what the Young Bucks do or certain people do in the company, you would have to take this seriously. You would have to take this as a big deal because, they showed the Punk footage, right, of him choking out Jack Perry. And, a lot of people, when Punk was brought in, a lot of people that didn't watch WWE came in to watch AEW to see how that show was going to succeed. And Punk was kind of looked at as an outsider, as a guy that didn't really belong from people in the locker room. That was said publicly by some people in AEW. So, I would love to see this idea come to fruition of Shane because it would also prove to, the audience how much of a heel group this new elite is because they're even going against, you know, they fought for AEW in their darkest times. That's, kind of been their thing is that they're always going to be in AEW and they're always going to fight for that brand. It would be the most counterintuitive to sign Shane and make him like in a commissioner role. It would show how much of the Bucks are heels and the elite are heels. So we'll let kind of, social media take that up. I'm sure I'm going to clip this and put it out there. But sleep on that idea of Shane McMahon being in AEW. Now, about a year ago, I had AEW in the chat when the CM Punk stuff was going on, and they waved. So, sometimes you never know who's watching. So if somebody is watching that and they want to take that idea, go ahead and run with it. But I'm throwing it out there as a fantasy booker. McMahon versus a Khan on AEW television or All In, their biggest pay-per-view. You book that, there's going to be a lot of people that want to tune into that pay-per-view to see that. And of course, I'm talking about Shane McMahon team versus a Tony Khan team, not Shane McMahon versus Tony Khan. So people don't take that out of context. Let's talk about WWE and AEW confirmed news now. Let's talk about Clash at the Castle because we did a prediction show for that. Piper Niven lost to Bayley for the women's title. The Unholy Union won the tag team titles. Big shout out to Alba Fire, who I believe it was Alba Fire. She lost her mom a couple days before the event, and WWE decided, to make the title change here. I don't think it was just because of that, but they were in Scotland. It was great to see that. The match was a little wonky. It was a little weird, but the moment in itself of the Unholy Union getting those titles, I thought was great. Chad Gable and Sami Zayn had an incredible match. Gable lost to Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. We talked about Gable a little bit ago with Alpha Academy and all that stuff. AJ lost to Cody, and Cody got jumped by the Bloodline to be saved by Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. And then Drew McIntyre lost to Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship and then proceeded to quit WWE 2 days later on Monday Night Raw. CM Punk will be on SmackDown tomorrow in Chicago. And the big rumor is that Punk and McIntyre is going to take place at SummerSlam. Punk's going to try to get cleared, and he's going to be ready to take on McIntyre at SummerSlam. There's also rumors about WWE bringing back Bad Blood as a PLE. And if that is the case, I'm sure they're going to book another CM Punk and Drew McIntyre match there. As far as Clash at the Castle goes, I think most of my predictions were correct other than the tag match. I think I said I hoped that the Unholy Union would win. It'd be nice. But other than that, I think I had a pretty good score on predictions-wise. It was, I wouldn't say it was a predictable show. It was a really good show, but the winners, like outcome-wise, other than the tag match, I thought, made the most sense. I know there's a lot of people that were upset Drew McIntyre did not win the world championship. At the end of the day, guys, Drew McIntyre re-signed with WWE. I think he knew that the long-term plan was to do him and Punk, and the money is already there for that match. The match doesn't need the world championship. So, does it suck Drew doesn't get his moment and a hometown kind of feel? Yeah, it does a little bit. But Damian Priest, if you have him lose the world title this early, what are you going to do really with Damian Priest? You could have him chase to win back the belt, but if he wins back the title a week or a month later from Drew McIntyre, does it really matter at that point to switch the belts? I think the runs matter more than the amount of times you win the title. I like the fact that WWE have decided to do more long championship runs or longer championship runs than they were doing, because before we would see, such and such win the United States title. 3 months later, they drop it to such and such. Just kind of a drop and go kind of thing. I don't like that. I like having long championship runs because it really defines the championship and it defines the person that holds the championship. So it really brings a lot more meaning to it. And I'm happy Damien's still a champion. He's going to face Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank for the world title, which I think is going to be a great match. We're going to still build that tension between Damian Priest and the Judgment Day, which I think is great because we're not really sure where the Judgment Day is going anymore. There is the implication that Damian Priest could turn face and be kicked out of Judgment Day, or maybe even Finn Balor. Damian Priest wants to do more things on his own rather than be in Judgment Day. We have the whole thing with Dirty Dom and Liv Morgan, which is heating up. And when Rhea Ripley comes back, they're going to feud. But I have a feeling that Liv Morgan might be the next one to join Judgment Day and Rhea Ripley gets kicked out. There's so much going on with Judgment Day that I think eventually it's going to reach a breaking point. And the other thing to think about is, Damian hinted at cashing in last year when Finn Balor was going up against Seth Rollins for the world title. So we're kind of getting back to this point where, now it's Damian defending the world title against Seth Rollins. It's Damian and Seth wrestling. And Finn Balor on Raw said, "Don't worry, I can handle Seth for you." And Damian said, "No, I got to do it on my own." What does Finn Balor think when he hears something like that? I think there's going to be something more that happens with Finn Balor, and he's going to be more of an integral part of this world title match that happens at Money in the Bank. I think he's going to have more of a bigger part than people may realize when it comes to this match, and it may lead to Finn Balor snapping or Damian Priest snapping and somebody leaving the Judgment Day. James said the Judgment Day split. Judgment Day is being split, excuse me. It's been unstable for quite a long time. And I agree, they've been building up this Judgment Day kind of being unstable even before WrestleMania and around SummerSlam in those periods. And the whole thing with Finn Balor, like that storyline was kind of dropped, which I think kind of sucked. But it could have the opportunity right now to get picked up again and to get spicy. I would love to see Finn Balor as a face again and be the Prince and kind of be in that main event role like he once was, especially under Triple H now, for him to get out on his own and be that, superstar. Man, Black and Gold NXT, when he came back, made that return in 2019, that Prince gimmick, it was phenomenal. He wasn't just a heel or a face. He was like kind of smack dab in the middle, but he was a badass. He really was. So I would really like to see him be a face and come out of Judgment Day and kind of like, be that Finn Balor again that could be a world champion. Because right now he's been more of a position player. He lost in the Money in the Bank qualifier against Rey Mysterio and Jey Uso. Jey Uso is now in the Money in the Bank match. So far, the Money in the Bank field. In the men's match, we got Jey Uso. In the women's match, we have Io Sky. And we have more qualifying matches coming up on SmackDown and next week's Raw. So it'll be interesting to see who all ends up in the Money in the Bank match. If Gable is being replaced, and Dragunov's going to take his spot. I would not mind seeing Dragunov in the match. I would really like to see Andrade and who am I thinking of? Andrade and Carmelo Hayes also in the Money in the Bank ladder match. We have the makings of possibly a really stacked and really good Money in the Bank ladder match this year. I don't necessarily think that yeah, I almost said Rey Mysterio. Well, I guess I could say Rey Mysterio, but I don't necessarily think that like you need to put Randy Orton or any of the Bloodline or Kevin Owens in the Money in the Bank match. That maybe they can have a tag match, or maybe they can have some sort of other match on the show, maybe a 6-man tag. I'm not 100% sure what they do there, but I think you need to put talent that want to be established or talent that could use the rub to be in the Money in the Bank match or possibly win the Money in the Bank. So that's kind of my 2 cents when it comes to the Money in the Bank match this year. Jerry Lawler signed a new WWE Legends contract. So it was reported that, Jerry Lawler's contract expired. And I'm assuming it was more for, kind of an announcer role kind of thing. Jerry Lawler, I believe, had a stroke about a year and a half ago or so. And I think, he can't really do commentary anymore. But it's cool to see that he reached an agreement with WWE with a Legends contract again, because he's been with WWE for a very long time. Whether you love or hate him, he's been a WWE guy. So it's cool to see that they reached an agreement and he's still going to be part of the WWE family with the Legends contract. Before we get to the Wyatt Six, Pro Wrestling Noah and WWE announced that AJ Styles will be at their event on July 13th. I am not going to pronounce the name of who he's wrestling because I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm assuming it is someone from Pro Wrestling Noah. It's going to be at the Noah Destination 2024 event. So wanted to put this in here because we talked about Io Sky, wrestling in a other promotion other than WWE. WWE are reaching more other promotions in this one. Like I said, Pro Wrestling Noah. It's going to be interesting to see what, AJ Styles does there in the ring. But it does leave the door open also for AJ to possibly do some stuff in TNA and hopefully maybe get a match against Josh Alexander. I would love to see Josh Alexander versus the phenomenal AJ Styles. Let's try to say the name. Okay. Naomichi Marufuji? I don't know how I don't know if that's how you say it or not. I tried though. I tried for James. Tried to James. Actually, Brian's got a question. Brian Cutler, how does Braun Breaker fit into Money in the Bank plans? Good question. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think, with Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn's feud, I think they're going to get a match at Money in the Bank. And I think Ricochet screws over Braun Breaker. Sammy is the Intercontinental Champion. I believe Money in the Bank is in Toronto. So, I think a lot of people thought maybe Gable versus Sami Zayn would be the match, but that feud is over, it looks like, for now. So if he's going to wrestle Braun Breaker, I think Ricochet, helps Sami Zayn get the win, get some revenge on Braun Breaker, and we lead more into a Braun Breaker and Ricochet match. If he does resign, maybe even at SummerSlam, put these guys, if Braun Breaker and Ricochet had a False Count Anywhere match, that match would be amazing. Amazing to see. So, I would really be interested to see, what they do there. I don't think Braun wins the Intercontinental Championship just yet. It's a little too soon, but he is definitely going to be a future Intercontinental Champion, along with guys like Carmelo Hayes and the NXT call-ups. Tiffany Stratton just has WWE Champion written all over her. I almost broke the table. WWE Champion written all over her. So, a lot of those people from NXT that came up, I'm not the biggest fan of NXT, but I can't deny the talent behind them. There are so many talented people right now in NXT and coming out of it that you have people like Carmelo, Braun, Tiffany Stratton. I feel like I'm missing somebody else. Dragonoff, another guy. These people are going to be champions, and they're going to be big people in WWE over the next 5 years. They're going to take shape, and they're going to be the future stars that WWE is going to build upon when Randy Orton and AJ decide to kind of step down, and Rey Mysterio, and they are in real good hands with WWE. So. But yeah, I think Braun wrestles Sami Zayn at Money in the Bank. I think that's where they kind of develop and go from there. Um, let's talk about the Wyatt Six. We did a tribute show to Bray. Me and Josh Bailey. Shout out to Josh Bailey. We did a tribute show to Bray in August. Man, that was sad. That was sad. Him passing away. I thought that was the end of Uncle Howdy, and it sucked. It sucks to go out in that way. That Bray did, very young age, and with the heart issues that he had, and you know, as far as being in the ring goes, being a talent, him and Bo were just about to team up together with Bray and Uncle Howdy. Would have been really cool to see those two and what they would do as a team. With that said, there was a documentary that came out for Bray Wyatt, and at the end of it, there was a tease for Uncle Howdy to come back. A lot of mixed reviews on it. People thought this was great. Some people thought, I don't really like this because Bray's not a part of it anymore. Bray Wyatt is still much a part of this because he is there in spirit. I think he's the sixth person of the Wyatt Sixth. He's the spirit person that's there. This debut / re-return of the wrestlers involved and the new characters that are kind of taking place was beautiful. It was a scene out of a horror movie. It was WWE's best, kind of scene, I think, as far as when you look at the Bray Wyatt lore, when you look at what stories have been told with Wyatt and Uncle Howdy, this was the best way to reintroduce wrestlers like Rowan and Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis and reintroduce Uncle Howdy. I mean, if you still have not seen this, you got to see it because it's straight out of a horror movie. I mean, literally terrifying. Terrifying stuff. Nikki Cross crawling out the door and then pointing and the camera following, going, around the door to the backstage area to gorilla position to see it completely destroyed, to see Rowan there with the Bludgeon Brothers mallet now saying, "Help me." And a little Easter egg to Brody Lee as well with his Bludgeon Brothers mask. And then to see gorilla position destroyed. We saw Chad Gable cut open, bleeding. And we saw Uncle Howdy. And he looks better than ever. And I'm talking in terms of costume-wise, it was amazing. It really was amazing to see. He feels more or less like how Bray was with The Fiend. That cool look, the cool mask, everything. I think when Uncle Howdy came at first, it was cool, but it didn't have the... Oh, there's a bug in here. It didn't have that same, flair, that The Fiend kind of did with the mask-wise and all that. Now we do. Now it feels like Uncle Howdy is complete. And it was great. It was certainly great. It was a great way, like I said, to bring back these characters. And you probably saw from the title of this video that the Wyatt Six may have just attacked Pat McAfee. Now, I know not everyone watches Pat McAfee's show, but if you go, I believe you can watch it on YouTube. If you watch the end of Pat McAfee's show, they kind of get scared for a minute. And they say that the security lights are flickering. And then it just cuts to black. Now, a lot of people are saying that this is part of the Wyatt Six because they will be in the same location of Pat McAfee's show that they'll have Raw there, basically. And I believe it's in Indiana. I'll have to double check real quick. But let me see if I can actually find it on my computer real quick so I can read off, because I believe it was Indiana's where he does most of his shows. Let me just look up Pat McAfee, because not a lot of people. I'm surprised not a lot of people are reporting it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so they appear to, show up and disrupt Pat McAfee's show in the closing moments. So, Michael Cole talked about, being on Pat's show on Monday. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that maybe, Pat's show gets disrupted with this Uncle Howdy stuff, and maybe, we see the set destroyed, and then this will be shown on Monday Night Raw, that they are targeting anyone and everyone they can. I don't know who Uncle Howdy's first opponent is going to be. I doubt it's going to be Pat McAfee. It could very well be Jey Uso. I don't know. But I got to tell you, when Bray came back, I was super excited. And I think, they leaned too much into supernatural stuff with when Bray came back, and it kind of got a little weird. And I think it got a little oversaturated, in my opinion. And that's a shame that, we won't be able to see how that story would have ended up because Bray's no longer here. But Bray's in spirit with this. I think Bray Wyatt would have loved this. It was pure genius what they did on Monday Night Raw. But I will say this too. They cannot do QR codes at this point. They need to be on the show. And they need to be able to, keep consistent stuff here to keep us intrigued. But they need to have some kind of impact. It can't just be this episode of Raw and then next week there's just hints to their next move. If they are going to do this whole thing with Pat McAfee, brilliant. You already got me excited. If I see the Pat McAfee show and it's completely distorted and, Uncle Howdy's there with the Wyatt Six and they're, destroying everything and sending more of a message that everyone is in danger in that locker room. It doesn't matter who you are. That to me stands out more. But I think before there was just too many hints of what could happen and not enough substance. WWE just need to have substance with this. And I think you have to have him in a match at SummerSlam. I'm hoping that's the direction that WWE go. Let's look at some of these comments here. Steven Chambers, what's up, Anthony? Sorry I'm late, my friend. Been busy. Take care of my mom. All good, man. All good. I hope she's okay. That sucks, man. I'm wishing your mom a speedy recovery. That's awful, man. But if you ever need to talk, bro, I'm always here. That sucks, man. Jay's in the chat. What's going on, Jay? Jay on Wrestling with Savage. Steven says, booking is what I'm most concerned about with the Wyatt Six. Notice they started the debut 6 minutes before Raw went off the air. Yeah, it was great. I was anticipating them to attack Jey Uso. I was ready for that to happen. But then Jay went in the crowd, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? And then the lights went out, and then, I thought for a minute, I'm thinking, are they really going to just have them walk out the ramp like Bray Wyatt did and not attack anyone? Because I feel like, they should have a target in mind. And this told me when they came out to that ring, or not even the ring, when they came to gorilla position, they mean business, and the target is everyone. And I think you are going to see some guys kind of try to step up to Uncle Howdy because it's going to become an issue where they're invading the show. Jay says that he's got Seth Rollins as Uncle Howdy's first opponent. Interesting. And we got another comment. I think they should attack Seth Rollins first. The Y6 should. Yeah, and I believe there was stuff when Seth was cutting his promo, Uncle Howdy was in the background. So that could very well, be the case. I'm excited to see, what Bo does as Uncle Howdy because he really has now the opportunity to be, that monster. We never really got to see Uncle Howdy in a match. Um, and that sucked that we never got to see Uncle Howdy in the ring um, and do something because it was always kind of backstage stuff like segments or promo stuff, or he'd hit the Sister Abigail on something. I think he dove on to LA Knight before. But this is a great opportunity for Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, to show off what he can do as this monster character and to really write the rest of the legacy of the Wyatt family lore. And I think they're going to do a great job of it. I really do. I'm confident in this, and I'm hoping that we get somewhat of closure and we get some really good creative. We get some really good horror stuff out of it, but we get some good wrestling. The one thing that, WWE showed us of Bray Wyatt and Bray Wyatt showed to the audience was that he could wrestle in the ring and he was a great character. I look back at some of the stuff he did early on with the Wyatt family, especially some of the stuff he did with Daniel Bryan. Some great matches. And it wasn't, just the great matches that we attached to Bray Wyatt. It was what he did as the cult leader. And that, to me, it just shows you can put them in a ring. You can give them time to wrestle, especially the talent that you have involved with this faction. You can give them that time to prove themselves to the audience. And you can still do, your QR codes. You can still do kind of the spooky stuff. You can still kind of can do that horror themed element to it. You just have to have them wrestle too. They can't be off TV for 3 weeks and then come back to target someone. They need to have something every week. And it's not just always about attacking someone. I just don't want to see like hints as to, who's next or whatever through a 15-second video or anything. I think we're done with that. So I think that's the direction where we're going here with this. And I hope that is the case because, like I said, this is a great way for, Bray's brother, Bo Dallas, to do the Uncle Howdy thing, to finish the Uncle Howdy saga and the Bray Wyatt lore in WWE. And, it's also, just seeing Eric Rowan back is great to see too. See all these characters come to life that, were kind of in the Funhouse or even before all the Fiend stuff. It's interesting to see. And I'm excited to see what the Wyatt Six brings to the table in the WWE. Steven says attack the LWO. I mean, in all seriousness, we don't also know whether it's going to be a Raw or SmackDown thing. Are they free agents? Are they going to be on the Raw brand? What's kind of the deal? We don't know. And that could, there is a brand split in WWE. I know Punk's going to be on SmackDown. I'm sure they'll explain that a little more. I know it's Chicago. Obviously, that's why he's there. But I wonder if they're going to give some kind of reason between Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis to why he's there. Like Adam Pearce let Punk appear because it's Chicago or whatever. So, depending on what brand they're going to be on too, would be of interest, to know of. Steven says, be interesting, see if there will be a 6-member Alexa Bliss or memory of Bray. I think it's Bray Wyatt. I don't know if Alexa Bliss is coming back. If she does, I don't, I wasn't a big fan of her with like the Wyatt stuff. I just didn't think it really fit. I really liked Alexa Bliss. That 2016 to 17 run was iconic for her when she was that heel. I think even 2018 too. When she was that heel, she really fit that mold as just a great heel. But she might end up, becoming part of the group too. I think it'd just be nice if the 6-member was, kind of a spiritual thing for Bray Wyatt. I think that would be a good thing for this group. Rowan got that mallet, got me thinking of Brody Lee, of course. And he's got the old mask that Brody would wear in the Bludgeon Brothers on the back of his jacket. So if you go back and watch it, he does have that on the back of his jacket, which I think is a really cool detail for this group. I love it when they do honor wrestling history, and obviously you're honoring Bray Wyatt, but the Bludgeon Brothers from years ago with Rowan and Harper in 2018, good team, and I thought it was a pretty solid gimmick for those two. Um, but clearly paying homage to Brody and keeping that kind of thing still mixed in with the lore. I love that stuff. There should be those character things, because at the end of the day, this is a television. It's sports entertainment, professional wrestling. It's a theater. So we always love those movies that have good lore to them. That's where I kind of take it as, is like, if you're gonna bring people back, or such and such is going to turn heel, or such and such is not going to turn heel because they've evolved as a character, those character moments should show. And I mean, that was a great thing about WrestleMania, when Roman Reigns, he chose revenge over retaining the WWE title, simply because he is still hurt over the Shield heel turn. It's a pretty big thing, and it's great character development, and it's such a great story that they have the opportunity to do also that with Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six stuff. Paying homage to some of that past WWE lore and bringing it back and mixing it in with the new. I love that. I love that kind of stuff. We have talked about really everything I wanted to talk about for today, as far as the Scoop Slam report goes, which I want to send a special shout out to everyone in the chat. If you guys want to, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button on this video. If you guys can, we do have memberships open. So if you do want to become a member of the channel, I think the lowest tier is like $1.99 or $2.99, whatever. So you can become a member of the channel and support the channel further. You can also, there's super chat, super thanks, all that stuff is here, part of the stream. So if you do want to do that, of course, that is always open. You can find us right here, always on the Anthony Leonetti Show, every Thursday at 7 o'clock with the Scoop Slam report. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a guest on next week yet or not. Obviously, with my system, you can kind of tell we're still having tech issues. But for the future, we are going to have some people on, some wrestlers, some former professional wrestlers, and some content creators. Once I'm still kind of honing down this setup, I'll have to do some more tests and whatnot. But everyone that came into the chat, thank you so much. Bring Tony on. I might actually do that. He is getting back into the ring. And I would love to talk to him about some things about that. I still pop in, to him and Blackwell and everyone else. I still like to check in on those guys and say what's up. Obviously, with time, I think I talked about it a little bit in the first episode, but with time, things change, and I always am going to support those guys no matter what, because those are the guys that I kind of started with, especially with this channel. They helped a lot, bring more out of me, and I'll never forget, what those guys, did and helped me come along, and how I was able to help them too. So I always can appreciate those guys. They always supported me, and I'm always going to support them. So, and thank you for liking the setup. I appreciate that. I think a lot of people like setup. I'm just missing the shirts. Again. I had a Cody shirt. We had Punk. We had, I think, RVD maybe. We had Jeff Hardy. We got a bunch of stuff. There's going to be more stuff. This might even be up on the wall at some point too. So, like I said, though, Scoop Slam Report, 7 o'clock Eastern every Thursday. Make sure, if you missed any of the other episodes too, you can go check those out as well. We're growing a library here on the show, and I'm excited to launch the podcast version and other things coming up in the near future. So thanks, everyone. I hope to see you all very soon. Thanks again, everyone who popped in here tonight on the Scoop Slam Report, and I'll talk to you very, very soon right here on the Anthony Leonetti Show. Take us out of here.